Live now. Can you see me, guys? Let's see if I can get my screen up here. All right, I think we're live. All right, let's see here. Get my chat up. Let's see. All right. Give some people some time to get on here. Hi, Diana, what's up? Larry the Lobster, what's going on, buddy? All right, I'm running a couple screens here, so. Yes, I'm live, April. How are you? How are you guys doing? Hello, Carrie. Hello from California Blue Suit. Hello. How are those wildfires out there? Sounds bad. Hello, Old Fashioned Heart. How are you? Linda, nice to see you in the chat. Marsha Graham from Alaska. Hello, everyone. So, what's going on? Just got back from a little family vacation. We were in Italy for 2 weeks. That was awesome. Got to see a brand new country that I've never been to. My grandpa's family came from there, so it was pretty cool. Spent some time in Venice, spent some time in Rome, then spent a lot of time near Montespertoli. So that's where our villa was. So it was awesome. Love the place, love the food. I'm a huge pasta fan, so that was obviously a great place to be. So what do you guys got? You got some good questions for me? Throw them at me. Do you ever watch any of the other trimmers and ever just disagree with how they do their work? Oh, Meadow's thirsty. No, not necessarily disagree with their work. We all have our own, Meadow, we all have our own styles. So would I do it differently? Probably, but not necessarily. They're not necessarily doing it wrong. Each person has their own style, each trimmer does. So there's gonna be little things that are gonna be different with the way they do them based on their own methods. So that's kind of how that goes. Las Vegas, watching, yes. Yep, Italy. It's the coolest place I've been so far, I can say that. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. How do you start a job or business doing what you do? Do you need certification? You do not need certification in the United States. The way I started, I trained with another professional trimmer. Meadow, come here. Come here. She likes to, when she's not being watched or paid attention to, we like to make noise, don't we? Chewing on your bone. Yeah. So what I did, the way that I started trimming was I trained with a professional trimmer and then spent like 3 months with him. He taught me everything I needed to know about the basics of trimming, things like that. And then I got lots of reps trimming with him as well. So that's how I would suggest doing it. There's short courses you can take. You can learn a lot that way, but you're not gonna get the repetition, the reps you need trimming to learn all the different things you're gonna come across. You get the basics on how to trim a foot, the angles, things like that, but to really get the reps, it helps to work with another trimmer. Let's see here. My daughter Lily says hello. Hello, Lily, she's 7. I love it that there's younger kids that watch. That's cool. Younger generation, new hoof watchers. Let's see here. St. Louis. Hello, Charlene. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law live there. Trailer Park Gaming. I don't have a question. Just want to say how much I enjoy the channel. Thank you. I appreciate that. I always like to know. It always is nice for me to know that people enjoy the videos. Makes me want to keep making them. Do you trim the baby cows too, or just adults? Baby cows, in general, their hooves are perfect. So you don't need to trim them. We don't really start trimming cows or the dairy cows until they reach about just under 2 years of age before they have their first calf. And that's just to make sure that when they start the lactation, their bodies go through a lot of changes. We want to make sure their feet are in the proper state, the proper positions, proper angles, so that the weight's distributed right when they start milking. So when they have those changes that happen with feed, with their body getting ready to have a calf, that they don't end up with hoof problems too. So how do you know when your knives need replacing, and have you ever snapped a knife blade from being so thin and sharp? Yes, I have snapped them. Usually what happens when they get real thin is they'll bend before they break. You'll get a little bend in there, and then you know that it's gonna snap pretty soon. Sometimes you don't catch it and they will snap. It's not a big deal. Just discard the knife. I got a whole bunch of knives with snap tips on them. But as they thin down, they get more flexible, they get really sharp, but they also get thin and can snap. So you just got to watch that when you're trimming. I can usually see it coming, and I'll usually be able to get rid of that knife, or not get rid of it, but take it out of my circulation before it actually snaps. What's the lifespan of a dairy cow? That varies. It can be 2 to 3 years old if they have complications with calving, or they get some type of reproductive issue or something like that. Or the oldest one I've ever trimmed was a lactating dairy cow, was 19 years old. So pretty old for a cow. I trimmed for a beef farmer one time who claims that he had a cow that was 32 years old. I don't know. Sometimes farmers will exaggerate. So maybe not 32, but that's what he said. So we'll see. Thinking of trading in my pencil for a trimming knife. Only thing is that I don't like the smell of manure. Thoughts? 64 years old. You're in trouble on a couple fronts there. 64 years old, it may seem like it's easy work, but this is actually what I would consider actually a young man's game. It's hard on your body. So at 64, I probably wouldn't start the profession then, but maybe you're ambitious. However, if you don't like the smell of manure, you're in trouble, because you spend a lot of the time working at the back end of a cow, and they poop a lot. Watching from Minnesota, love your videos. There's something therapeutic about watching them. Keep it up. Cheers. Will do. Duberson. Went to school in Minnesota. What made you choose this job? Well, I always wanted to have my own business. And when I was going to college, I was working on a large dairy, and one of my jobs was to help the hoof trimmer when he came. So that's how I met Wayne, and it looked like a cool profession. Having wanted to have my own business anyway, it was a natural fit. Spent a lot of time doing it on the farm. So when I got done with college, I asked him if he'd train me, and he said he would. So the rest is history. What do you use to sharpen your knives? A bench grinder? Yes, I use a bench grinder, and it's got 2 different wheels on it. The one I start with is like a rubber abrasive wheel, real fine grit, so that'll put that edge on. And then I've got a cloth disc that I use to put, that really hones that edge and gets it nice and really polished and sharp. So, can you explain the differences between the different names of cattle, like cattle, cow, heifer, steer, or any others? Sure. So when the female, so we'll break it down by sex first of all. So a steer and a bull, those are males, right? A steer has been castrated. A bull, obviously, is intact. So the reason they do that is because bulls can be aggressive. So if they're gonna raise them for meat, then they castrate them. It takes away that aggressive nature of that animal. It's still a male, but he's not mean. He doesn't get mean, and he'll put on weight, and he's a lot safer. He's a lot safer animal to be around. When it comes to the females, so a heifer is just a female cow or a female bovine that has yet to have a calf. So, and then once they do calve, then they become a cow. Did I miss anything there? I think that's about all there is with those. Cattle is just in general, right? Like a bunch of cows or a bunch of bovines are cattle, breeds of cattle. There are different breeds of cattle, but that's like the general terms of the bovines in general, if that makes sense. A little convoluted there, but I think you get the picture. The 34-year-old cow, the farmer was talking about his wife. Yeah, no, actually his wife is much older than that, but I like where your mind is there. All right. This is going to be a rather iffy question due to the nature of it. Oh, I probably should read this before I start talking, huh? But has any cow ended up having to be euthanized due to some severe hoof issues that could have affected the leg? Years ago, I saw I've probably seen maybe 4 or 5 in my career years ago. So what would happen is one of the worst conditions that a cow can get is foot rot. And that'll basically, it's an infection in the hoof, in between the 2 claws of the hoof. And that can actually work up into the leg, and that leg will swell up really big. And then they can become basically immobile. That's really the only situation where you have to euthanize them, because obviously once they can't walk, then if a cow can't get up, she's gonna eventually, there's no end game for her. Her legs eventually fall asleep, and then they have to be put down. But hoof rot, though, or foot rot, is now caught way earlier than that. You never have a situation where that leg blows up. Farmers now, they'll notice that puffy foot. If you've watched some of my videos where I'm dealing with that, you'll see that the foot will be a little puffy. They can give them antibiotics right at that point, and it'll knock that down. So you really don't see that anymore. I haven't seen a case like that in years where it got up into the leg. So, and that's where it becomes dangerous. Most of the things that are in the hoof itself, we can treat and get to resolve. You may have permanent damage that's done, like with toe necrosis. That's where the bone on the inside of the foot will actually basically start to die. Part of it'll die. So yeah, in that case, we can, make her more comfortable. You don't have to euthanize the cow for something like that, though. Hello from Georgia. Enjoy hearing the sounds you make while trimming. Some days your hands must hurt. They do. Yep. Especially, well, not so much when I'm trimming, but overnight my hands will get stiff. Wake up in the next morning and I'll have stiffness in my joints and things like that. But not so much trimming, unless I really put in a long week. Then by the end of it, I might have some. But you look different from your videos. Clone? You don't see me in my videos very much. You're probably thinking of the other guy. You see him a lot. Let's see here. Would you ever consider doing a collab video with another hoof trimmer? It would be interesting to hear you exchange ideas and maybe answer frequently asked questions. Sure, maybe. Depends on the situation. How long did it take to get used to the smell when a cow relieves itself as you trim, or are you still not used to it? I'm used to it. I grew up on a dairy farm, so my entire life I've been around that smell. I don't even notice it, to be honest with you. It's just part of the job. If you're obviously not accustomed to it, it can be strong and you can, make you think twice. But for me, no. I've been around it so much that it doesn't faze me. I actually feel comfortable when I smell it, because it's like, okay, I'm around my people, right? Oh, going too fast here. Slow down. I'm running two screens here, so I apologize. What do you call a cow that is a quadramputee? Is that a joke? I'm not sure. Once they can't walk, they're ground beef. Sorry, I'll see myself out. Well, actually, if a cow can't walk, it's illegal for them to become ground beef, believe it or not. They have to be mobile to be to be able to be part of the food supply. How did you get into the cow nail trimming business? Yeah, I worked on dairies, and that was one of my jobs, was to help the hoof trimmer there on that when I was going to college. So that's how I got the start. Helped him pick up feet, do the odds and ends jobs, kind of like my son does for me now. And that's how I kind of got the interest to do it. And he agreed to train me, and here we are. Love the image behind you. Can you tell me more about it? That is a painting that my wife picked out. I can't really tell you much more about what it is. I'm gonna say it's a seascape of some sort. I like it too, but I don't know. It's nothing, I don't know exactly what it is or where it is. Do you do the small farm trims like 4 to 5 cows? I do. I've got one on probably this Friday I'm gonna do. It's gonna be 4 or 5 cows. I have to call them yet. Fair cows, actually. We got the county fair coming up here about 2 weeks. Two weeks from Wednesday, Thursday. So it's fair season, so we got to trim and get the cows that are going to go to the fairs all trimmed up nice so they look good when they show. How do the Packers look this year? Well, I like the draft picks they picked up. I got to say that. I always have high hopes, but you never know, right? I'm still not convinced that Jordan Love is the deal. He has, some of those days where he looks like he could be a star, and then other days where it looks like he's just throwing it up there. So we'll see. I'm excited for the season, though. Do you keep records digital of each cow trimmed? We don't see the record keeping, but it must be done, right? No, I don't keep digital records. I am old-fashioned, pen and paper. That way I never have to worry about a cow breaking my screen. But yeah, I write every cow down, and then I write down if there's any issues with them, and that allows me to keep track of each cow that I trim, but also then we can have a record for the farmer of any interventions that needed to be done, and they can enter that into their data software if they use that. Are there any emergency middle of the night type calls, or can a cow wait for treatment? No, most cows can wait. Most of the things you're going to catch are going to be not life or death situations, right? And it's, how would I say that? Nothing, 3 hours difference, 4 hours difference, not going to make that big a deal. So no, I don't do any in the middle of the night, but I do make emergency stops if there's a cow outside of most of my farms. I trim on a schedule every couple of weeks to every month, depending on the size of the farm. So if it's outside of that normal trimming window, then I will make a call or a stop just to pick some feet up. But, oops. Digital records are easier to lose than written records. They are. That's a true story. And I don't know what it is, but I like to have like written copies here versus, I guess, digital is good for, if you have thousands of cows that you're trying to keep track of. But for me, that's not really the case as far as herd wise. I'm just trying to keep track of the ones that I trim. So, and most farms, the way that the data really comes in handy is if you're trying to notice, or trying to put together a cause of lameness or lameness prevalence based on things you're seeing and kind of try to problem shoot. But I spend enough time on these farms where it's really, nothing sneaks up on you, right? You can see problems coming, so they're easier to stop and fix without, and I really don't need that large database of digital data to look at. Do you trim on beef lots or do just dairy farms? Yeah, just dairy farms for the most part. I'll trim a few beef cows, but we have much smaller herds here. We don't have the big feeder lots or anything here. A lot of those are in Kansas, down south of where we are. But cows seem docile when you're working on them. Do you ever get one that gets mad or kicks? Yes, absolutely. Most of the time though, I'm out of the danger zone when it comes to getting kicked. Most of the time when you're gonna get kicked is when you're getting that cow into the chute, where they feel uncomfortable. Once they're in there and that there's a come along that comes behind their back legs and kind of holds them forward so they can't kick backwards. And then in the front, when I'm working on the front feet, there's 2 teardrops that come and kind of tip in that protect me when I'm working on the front feet if they were to try to kick forward. So there's really not a lot of danger zone as far as trimming wise for them to kick me. I have been kicked multiple times and hard too. And yeah, cows are docile until they're not. I was just telling my son this the other day, but you know, when a lot of times a bull, if he's aggressive, he'll bluff a lot of times. He'll show that he's mean and tough, but a lot of the times he's bluffing. With a cow, they're rarely bluffing. If her ears are pointed up and she's agitated, she means business. So that's something you got to watch. He's helping me now, so I got to make sure that he can read body language of animals. So, how do you get your chute, and do you do your own maintenance on it? How did you get your chute? I purchased it. Appleton Steel in Appleton, Wisconsin builds them. So that's where I purchased it. And yeah, I do most of the maintenance, the easy stuff, the greasing, things like that. If it comes to repairs, having to replace, you know, things that take a little more work, I got a guy on the east side of the state that I have do it. Luke is his name, Luke Ranke. He's really good. He used to build the chutes, so he knows how everything works, and I take it to him. The hours of frustration saved by letting him do the work, love it. I don't have a lot of patience sometimes, especially with things like that. I feel like my time is better spent trimming, and the guys that know how to fix stuff, their time is better spent fixing, so that's what I do. Southern New Mexico, very few hoof trimmers around here except those for shoeing horses, so I find your channel interesting. All right, thanks, Jincy. Yeah, there's some trimmers in New Mexico. Can't think of their names offhand, but I know there are some guys out there. While trimming, sometimes I see smoke. Is it because the cow went to the bathroom? LOL, legit question. Could be, yeah. In the wintertime, you might see that, or you might see steam just from the cow's foot, right? So if I'm trimming in temperatures below 0, you're gonna see steam, heat just coming off the feet. Every animal has the potential to attack. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that. Yes, indeed. So I'm always vigilant when it comes to cattle because obviously it can go bad really quickly if you're not paying attention. So, but for the most part, cows they are docile, right? They're not going to get angry, and they're not going to get, you know, defensive and try to come at you. But when they do, you better be able to recognize it ahead of time. I'm a trucker, and I'm always seeing bull racks, cattle trucks. I wonder if they kick inside the trailers and injure the hooves. They can. In fact, one of the theories as far as tonocrosis comes from cattle being loaded and unloaded off those big cattle trucks, that could potentially cause injury and do that. I'm not necessarily sure that's what's causing the injuries personally, but that's one of the theories behind tonocrosis on especially on beef herds, or on the feeder lot cattle, is from the traveling and unloading and loading of the on the cattle trailers. How close are the knives you use to the off-the-shelf ones? I mean, do you Do you like to modify them at all to fit what you like? Yeah, I do modify them. So when I get them off the shelf, most of the hoof knives have a big hook on them on the end. And the first thing I do when I get my knives is I take that hook way down. I don't need the very hook or the very tip of the knife, that hook, I don't actually use for cutting. It's more for like picking rocks out and things like that. As I sharpen them, I actually create a new hook in the end of that knife. That's what I'm actually using for the trimming itself. So by shortening that hook, I'm able to sharpen deeper into that hook and get my knife sharper. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's really the only modification that I make to them. Now, you might notice some of them are really thin. That's just from repeated sharpening. As they get thinner, they become sharper, and those are the ones, the real thin ones that I use, or that you see me use in the videos, working around lesions, because as they get thinner, they're easier to work around the lesions themselves when they're not a thick blade, so that's why I use them. And the thinner they get, the sharper they get. Willie Smith, enormous fan. I know nothing. Oh, where'd you go? They went too fast. Right about the time I start to read them, they fly out of there. Oh, it's like they scrambled it. Where'd it go? I lost your comment. Sorry about that. Do the cows remember you like the dogs remember the vet? Some of them do, yep. Usually the ones that have lameness issues, those are the ones that come into the chute the most frequently, so they'll understand what's going on. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. Sometimes they recognize you and they're like, nope, I don't want to go back in there. And other times they understand the flow better and they'll go right in the chute. So 50-50. The better the experience for the cow the last time, the easier they are to get in. So that's the biggest thing to keep in mind. Is there a National Association of Hoof Trimmers or something like that? Have you given any presentations? I have not given any presentations. There is a National Hoof Trimming Association, and in fact, there's a convention this August, I think, where big get-together where they all get together and talk about stuff. I have not given any presentations, quite frankly. Believe it or not, I'm not comfortable giving speeches in front of people. This is easy. I can talk to lots of people on here because it's just me and a camera, but when I get in front of people, I start to get the shakes, put it that way. I get nervous, right? It was in college, you got to take a speech class. Normally freshmen take that class. I was a senior before I took it because I was afraid of it. So still am, believe it or not. Pam Pilgrim today. Hello from California. Today I completed, North Carolina, sorry. Today I completed watching all of your videos. I find them interesting and informative. Well, thanks. That is awesome. You watched all of them? That is dedication. Love it. Oh, okay. Okay, slow down, screen. What do you think from the old ones to the new ones, right? I learned when I first started, so about a year before I started actually making videos, I still had a flip phone, believe it or not. So that's how far my technology has come in the last few years. I still have a lot of learning to do when it comes to editing, but getting better. Those first videos were kind of cringe though. I could have edited a lot more out of them. Do you do walk-ins or only appointments? Yeah, I'm not taking on any new customers right now. Actually, I haven't for about 10 years, unless they're real close to my home, right? Really convenient. So just because I'm busy, and my goal is to actually spend more time on the farms that I have rather than pick up more customers. I want to try to get all of my farms eventually, if I can convince them all to do it, to 3 to 4 times a year trimming. Try to eliminate as many of the hoof problems as possible. How many miles is your service area? Well, in general, I have all of my farms are going to be within 30, 40 minutes of my home, except for one. One I've had for that farm up north. I started my business up in the northern part of the state, and this farm I've had ever since I started that. So 20, almost 20, well, I started the business 23 years ago, almost exactly from right now. And that fall of my first year is when I started there. So that one's 2.5 hours away. Otherwise, everything is within a half-hour home, which is good. Watching for about 3 years now, Elizabeth DeLong. You have a calming voice with interesting content. Well, thank you. That's one of the things I didn't expect, is that hoof trimming would be calming. So that's awesome. When you're trimming wall and hoof horn, especially circling around a lesion with great force, looks like a repetitive stress injury to wrists waiting to happen. Are you safeguarding against that somehow? Well, believe it or not, the majority of my trims, I'm really not using my knife a lot for. Just for a little bit of cleanup work at the beginning. Most of the work I'm doing with my grinders, that probably is going to have the most amount of stress on my wrists over time. But yeah, I can see how you'd see if I did a lot of trimming, knife trimming like that, where it could get that way. But for the most part, I don't really notice anything with knife work whatsoever. That's pretty minimal as far as the amount of time in my day that I spend. Like I say, most of the trimming that I do is maintenance trimming. It's done with the grinders. The lesion work where I'm actually using the knives, that's a very small number of cows in a day. So not a lot of stress there. Do you get into making videos for instructional purposes or for fun, or both? Actually, yeah, all of those. Fun. Because I thought at the beginning, I thought it would be fun to do it. But those first videos took a long time to make, right? To edit and put together. But yeah, the whole idea was, when I started, I saw a video on Facebook where hoof trimming was depicted as torture, basically. It was showing that this cow was in this machine, and that, it was, like I said, depicted as torture. Well, that told me that there probably should be more information out there so people actually understood what was going on, and we're actually not hurting the cow, we're helping them, right? We're trying to keep their feet in the best possible shape so that they don't get hoof problems. So that's kind of what led me to do it. That was the point or one of the reasons that I started it, was to teach people. But yeah, I did it kind of because I wanted to learn how to do it, and I thought it would be fun too. I understand salicylic acid is also used for medicated shampoos for dermatitis and psoriasis. What makes it good for treating hoof problems? The same thing that makes it good for those, right? That exfoliation, that really helps with hoof stuff too. If you have these lesions that have some, I don't want to say necessarily necrotic tissue, but kind of, it'll help slough that away, helps gently exfoliate that, pull that away, and then that corium can, start to work like it's supposed to and produce hoof horn. The other thing it does is the low pH helps to kill bacteria as well. So that, and the fact that salicylic acid is actually the precursor to aspirin, so it may have some local pain relief properties as well. Willie Smith, enormous fan, know nothing about trimming. Ah, there you are, Willie. Yeah, you're the greatest. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I don't know if I'm the greatest, but I love that you think I am. That's great. You'd be great for doing voiceovers. I've heard that. You think so? But I did I listened to some audiobooks when I was on vacation. And I was thinking to myself, I don't really like the voices on a lot of them. So, I don't know, is that mean to think that? I don't know. People have told me that they like my voice, so maybe I'll do it someday just to find out. But honestly, I hate the sound of my voice. When I'm editing, I'll voice something, and then as I'm listening to it back, I'll listen to it and I'll just tell it, just shut up, dude. I'm trying to think here as I'm hearing myself talk. But do you do all the editing yourself? Yes, I do. Is your nose sunburned? Probably. Yep. Vacation. Just got done mowing the lawn besides. And the light too. Let me see. Is it burned? Not too bad. Got a big Italian nose, so it kind of sticks out further into the sun than it should. What message do you have for the fans that get annoyed when videos get member locked? I understand why you do it, but I see users complaining about it in the comments sometimes. Yeah, so the reason I made member videos in the first place was from suggestions from my commenters, right? So I had a couple videos that I had to edit out some of the best parts of the videos just for the YouTube, community guidelines, basically. If you show us anything too graphic, then you lose your monetization on it. So I just edited that footage out of there. And then a bunch of people were like, why don't you just create a member page and then put that stuff on there? If people want to see it, they can see it, and you can have edited videos for everybody else. So that's what I did. It's not some people say, oh, it's just a money grab. It really isn't. That's about as cheap as you can possibly make those videos. You could go on there right now and watch all my member videos for 99 cents. So you can't make it much cheaper than that. You basically, if you're gonna have a member page, you basically have to have some tiers. That's what they do. So I made them as cheap as humanly possible. And then it gives me some incentive to make them. If you got paid, if I didn't make anything on them, it's hard to spend 8 hours or 6 hours of time in the editing process on a video that is not gonna, the algorithm's not gonna pick up because it's not advertiser friendly, and then you don't make any money on them either. So, do you like grilled cheese sandwiches? I do. That's a random question, Tommy. But yeah, I do. I've also watched all your videos. Some of them I watched more than once. I love the 4 videos about the cow with the broken pedal bone. That, April, is the video I was talking about. Yeah, that's the pedal bone, the fractured pedal bone video is the one I had to edit I think it was probably the second video in that sequence. It was when I pulled that pedal bone out of there. You can picture what that looked like on the inside. I edited that out because I knew if I did show it, that it would get demonetized anyway. So, and that's one of the videos like, oh, come on, I want to see that. That's the best part of the video. That's why I made the member videos right there. Thank you, April. Bye-bye for now. See ya, Anna. How far in advance do the farmers tell you how many cows they want you to see before you get there? Usually, I don't get any advance notice. I usually figure it out that day. Hoof trimmers call it farmer math. So what that is if a farmer tells you that they have 10 to 15 cows to trim, that means 25. If they tell you they have 40 or 50 to trim, that means 60 to 75, somewhere in that range. There's always more than they say. So when I first started trimming, it was frustrating because I would I had smaller farms at that time, and I would trim more than one in a day. So if they said 15 cows, I would do the math, say, okay, at that time I was trimming about 5 cows an hour, 3 hours, set up, take down, 8 to noon, I could be at my next farm by 1 o'clock. Well, then when you get there, they have 25 or 30. Well, that throws your timing way off, right? But now I know farmer math, so I don't worry about it. I kind of do it in my head. I know there's always going to be more than they tell you, and for the most part, I don't even ask anymore until I get there. How much time do you need to dedicate to the YouTube channel? Is it hard to fit it in? It is absolutely hard to fit it in. I'm actually making videos on 3 different platforms and doing all the editing myself, and some of the platforms have a different format for the videos that they like. So I have to, if I make them on videos that I shoot for YouTube in landscape, right, I have to re-edit those. And for the vertical format platform. So it's a lot of work. I don't have a lot of time outside of work and the kids and stuff like that. So, but yeah, so how much time do I dedicate to YouTube alone? Probably maybe 20 to 30 hours a week, 20 to 25 hours a week, I'd say, on YouTube plus, and then on all my other platforms. So when you see the vertical formats on YouTube, those are actually videos I shot for other platforms that I just share on YouTube as well. Some people say, I hate vertical format. I know you do. I'm just sharing extra ones, so. Totally hooked on your videos. Thanks so much for doing them. You're welcome, Sarah. Have you ever been kicked by a cow? Yep, I have. Only a couple times severely. And usually when you get kicked, you don't see it coming, believe it or not. There's those sneaky cows that just catch you off guard. I've noticed that many of the videos in rural countries where they tilt the cows on their side, wouldn't that not be the best for the cows? Question mark. Yes and no. So it all depends really on what the farmer's preference is. When I first started, if you had a tip table, you weren't going to get any work because farmers hated them. And I don't know if it's because of the old styles of tip tables or tilt tables, if they were just not comfortable or things happened in them, but they just did not like them. So that was all probably the number one question that I got before I ever went to a new farm is, what kind of trimming table do you use? And then when I tell them it was an upright, they would say, oh, good, because I hate tip tables. So now the new tip tables, they're super fast. Guys can trim fast on them. They're only in there a couple of minutes. I don't really think it matters if you lay a cow on her side or pick her feet up. Honestly, I don't think it makes any difference. How often do you need to call a vet to consult on a hoof issue? Very rarely. Only if there's, some type of surgical intervention that needs to happen, if you need to amputate a claw, or if they need antibiotics for some type of hoof issue, right? Outside of that, most of the time they send us work, believe it or not, because we have better equipment to do it and we trim more feet. So vets usually refer work to us. My dad got his foot stepped on and she twisted the toenail off. Yep. Most of the cows I work on are anywhere from 1,200 to say 1,800 pounds. So divide that by 4, you're looking at 300 to 450 pounds per foot. So when they step on your foot, it hurts. They can crush, break bones. I wear steel-toed boots, so I don't have to worry about that too much. But have you noticed trends in what makes a great hoof video in terms of views? Can you ever predict which videos will do well? Yes. The ones with a lot of knife work, those are the ones that do well, especially if there's, say you pull a rock out and it's caused an abscess underneath. Pus videos, right? Those, you gotta be real careful about those though when you're making them, because they are on the very fine line of a great video and demonetized video. So you gotta do it with tact, put it that way. But those are the videos that do the best in general. Or if you find something odd, like a tooth or a nail or something like that, those types of videos do well. Does anyone make trimming chutes besides Appleton and KVK? Yes. There's Comfort Chute. That's another Wisconsin-based one. I think they're still in business. You don't see many of them anymore, but they're there. And then there's lots of different, well, I shouldn't say a lot, several different tilt tables too. Riley Chutes builds a tip table. What else? There's Anka. They're another upright trimming chute. What else? I think that's the majority of. There's other tip tables, but I'm not in that world much, so I don't know those. I don't know, all those brands. And there's some other foreign or other overseas brands of upright chutes, but like I say, I don't necessarily know all those either. You like verticals if you're watching on your phone? Yeah. And that's kind of how I look at it, is like, for me anyway, I spend most of my time, if I'm watching any type of video, it's going to be on my phone with most of the platforms I use. I don't sit in front of the television much anymore. However, a lot of people do watch YouTube on their television, so that's why I got to kind of work both avenues when I'm creating content. When it comes to the social media apps, like, Facebook, TikTok, those vertical format, everyone's on their phones watching those. But as far as YouTube, once again, TV, right? So you got to think about the big screen, that type of view. So that's why I make those. But are you a YouTuber who trims hooves or a hoof trimmer who makes YouTube videos? B. Yeah, I don't really consider myself a YouTuber. It's kind of weird. I'm a hoof trimmer that documents what I do and shows people. So I became a YouTuber by accident, kind of. I mean, it was intentional, but that wasn't my goal when I did it. Oh, wow. All of these things. I got a lot of questions that came up really fast here. What are your favorite fishing pole brands and lures? Well, so my favorite rods are Dobbins. Reels, my favorite spinning reels are Daiwas, and my favorite bait casting reels are Shimano's. Lures, depends on what I'm fishing for, really. I have a swim bait addiction. If you're a fisherman that targets game fish, you know what I'm talking about. Pike, bass, muskies, even walleyes. I've got a ridiculous arsenal of swim baits. Yeah. I got to quit buying them. They just look so realistic that they become my favorite. Can you tease any upcoming videos? Yes. I've got actually 2 that I'm working on that are multi-video, trim, follow-up, the whole process videos. Working on 2 of those right now. So can't tease, I can tease it, but it's going to be a little while before they come out. I'm trying to work them all the way through the process. I may not go the whole length just because, well, one of them, by the time it's completely filled back in, it'll probably be about 5 months. That's a long time to go on one video. But we'll see. One of them I'm going to do that way for sure. So, and then I've got a couple. We're getting into, if you like the abscess type videos, we're getting into that season. It's been hot lately. Hot temps mean cows spend more time on their feet. The more time they spend on their feet, if they have any imperfections, they're going to come out, and you're going to see more abscesses. So already seeing some of them, actually. Could be your third career. Oh yeah, are you talking about voiceovers? Yeah. I don't need any more work though. I have too much work right now. It's okay if you make money, dude. Yeah, it is. But that's, as far as the member videos I think you're talking about, yeah. There's nothing wrong with making videos or making money doing it. That's just my motivation. If I'm going to spend 8 hours on it, especially the limited time, that's why I charge 99 cents. I really want to show everyone as much of the content as I can, but I need to have some incentive for me to make them, right? If it becomes a situation where I can make a video that can be monetized or one that isn't, I'm going to lead to one that can get monetized, obviously. Not out of greed, it's just takes a lot of time, and my time is actually my most limited resource right now. After releasing the pus, does the cow have instant relief and can walk on the hoof? Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, especially if it's really tight and full of fluid, those are going to be, well, you know how it is if you smash your finger or your fingernail or something like that, or get a blister, how painful it is and tight. That's kind of how it is. When that gets released, it can, that's where a lot of the pain comes from, is that pressure built up inside there. Do you ever trim calves or younger than breeding age? Very rarely. Most of the time, if it is, it's something, I would say, If you're working on them, chances are it's structural, something in the leg, not a hoof problem, because most of the hoof problems we deal with are pressure related, and calves and young animals are light. You don't see a lot of pressure problems. Not till they get bigger and put on a lot of weight. That's when you start to see those. I like when you go in front of the cow and say a few comforting words and a few scratches to the head. Head scratches, yep. Sometimes they don't want you to do that though. I don't think they're gross. Well, some reason kind of gross, but oh well, that's life. Don't mind them. The abscess videos, yeah, they're gross, and I think that's what gets people in there. Joel Brules, really enjoy your videos from Winona, Minnesota. Hello, Joel. I went to school at Winona State. Class of 2002. So I know you voice over your videos, hand movements and gestures seem like it's voiced in real time. Do you have any idea of what you're going to say in the videos while you're recording? Sometimes, yes. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. Like if you see me pointing things out, it's because in my mind, when I look at a hoof on video, I know what the questions are going to be. And I try to envision what the questions are going to be, and then I try to answer them proactively. So yeah, when I'm pointing things out or trying to explain what something looks like or different, why is that color? Why is there a color there? I'm looking at the hoof saying, okay, I think this is what a question that's going to be asked, so I'm going to try to answer it ahead of time. And I'd kind of try to build the video in my mind as I'm trimming, so you have some type of framework to try to build a video, you know what I mean? I wouldn't say it's scripted necessarily, but I'm building it in my mind so it's more coherent when I put it all together. Nate, if you ever need free edits, I got you, no problem. Contact me whenever. I do post-production for a living and love your work. I don't mind taking the workload if you ever need it. Oh, that'd be awesome, Willie. Free editing? I'd keep you busy forever though, and then you'd have to charge me. What is the visual difference between healthy corium and unhealthy? When you speak of that, are you just observing whether there's fresh horn on top, or is it the quality of the horn on top? No, when I'm talking about the corium itself, it's the way it looks, the color of it. It should be nice and pink and what's the best way to describe it? For lack of a better word or term, just really clean looking. And uniform all the way across. That's what it should look like. If it's gray in color, if it's discolored, or if it's got protrusions in different areas of it, that's unhealthy corium. So you're trying to get that to slough away. That's what that salicylic acid does. Any of that damaged stuff, it'll kind of smooth that out or get that to come away, and that healthy corium is up underneath there. You don't want to physically remove any of those things with your knife or something like that. You want to do it in a gentle fashion. So let me see here. Please post more live videos. Live trimming or lives like this? Live trimming is kind of tricky sometimes because when I'm editing, I can take out the loud noise of the machine up and down, things like that. The grinder noise, I can lower that. If you're trimming in real time, grinders are loud, machines are loud, fans are loud, that gets in the way, that type of stuff. So, but yeah, this summer with my son helping me, I'm planning on doing some actual live trimming. I'm a new viewer and really love your videos. Thank you, Cyriline Songbird. I think I got that right. Have you ever noticed, I already said that one, didn't I? Have you ever come across a trim where you were unable to do anything for a cow and had to recommend a vet? Yeah, foot rot, those ones that get into the legs, those are ones that I have the vet, or I refer to a vet. If you weren't, oh shit, where'd it go? That's the one thing that I don't like about these lives is all of a sudden the chat will just start moving, flying, and I lose the comments that I'm actually in in the process of reading. How many years of age until they stop milking cows, or is it based on milk production? It depends on different things with the cow. If their udders become too big or don't, or how would I say it? Like if they're not, if they, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes their udders get misshapen, so they don't milk out properly, and they end up getting mastitis, things like that. They start producing poor quality milk. That'd be the easiest way to put it. Or they have reproductive issues where they don't get bred back. Cow needs to have a calf in order to produce milk. So that, or sometimes just age. If as they get older, milk production will start to decrease, and then they can be culled from the herd eventually. But for the most part, it's something else that'll end up getting them culled out, whether it be, something hopefully not with their hooves, right? Because that's what we're working on. But feed issues can be a problem. Fertility issues can be a problem. And milk production issues with mastitis, things like that, that can be a problem as well. What would be 3 of the best lessons you have learned over time as a hoof trimmer? Let's see. Always take your time. Don't rush when you're trimming. Treat every cow as if it's your cow, right? And probably the best lesson that I've learned is always stay calm around cattle, because they can sense if you're agitated, and if you have a group of cattle, if you do a lot of yelling or things like that, try to get cows to move, then you'll spook the entire herd. So it's really to be calm around cows and try to move them in a calm fashion, right? Just try to keep them comfortable, and then your days go a lot better. I still don't understand the difference between a sole ulcer and a sole fracture. So a sole fracture, the end result is an ulceration. So it's kind of confusing, right? Basically, a sole fracture is where the sole will actually pull away, that heel bulb will pull away from the sole in that heel bulb area there, and you'll get a ulceration right in the dead center of that hoof, where that sole and that heel bulb meet. That's where you'll find that. It's going to be caused by like a shearing force. It's going to be actual pull that sole away. Whereas a sole ulcer is right below the pedal bone, basically. In the back half of that pedal bone, there's a spot where the deep flexor tendon attaches to that, and right below that you'll get pressure spot, and then you'll end up getting an ulcer sometimes if the claw's not balanced right and there's too much weight focused right there. That's where a sole ulcer forms. So they're different in that regard as far as the cause and where they're located. So that's how you tell them apart. Both of them are fairly rare. You're going to see sole fractures more on the medial claws of the back feet, and you're going to see sole ulcers more so on the lateral claws of the back feet. Lateral claw is going to have the highest pressures on it. The medial claw is going to be one where if there's some type of shear force with a cow, whether she is making a hard turn or something, twisting, you're going to see that on the medial claw. Do you have any favorite breeds of cattle? My favorite breed to trim is Holsteins, just because they fit my chute the most, they're the best, and they're the most uniform across the breed, right? So I trim a lot of those. Have you ever been sued by a farmer? Nope. I've got a great relationship with all my farms, so never been in that situation. 52 and you want to be a hoof trimmer, Marty says. I like it. That's a great mindset to have. 52 though, wouldn't want to be a hoof trimmer. Gets hard on the body. All right, a few more, guys. We're gonna bail out of here for a little bit. Wrap this one up. How much bigger is your right arm from all your knife work than your left? About the same. About the same. Most of it's from grinder work, forearms, right? Holding the grinders. So I'd say they're about the same. When they're pregnant, do you have to do anything special getting them in the chute and lifted? Not necessarily. No, you try to avoid trimming them when they're really pregnant if possible, but just because you don't want to mess with them if you don't have to. But nothing out of the ordinary. Oh, Meadow. The kids are home. Meadow heard them.
Holy shit! Do they need to add?
My wife is home and she's talking loudly. Come on, babe. Something, holy shit, something, she says. That was a jump scare. It was. Where do you buy your salicylic acid from? I get it from Amazon, actually. Yep. I buy it in bulk, so I get like 10 kilos sometimes, kilograms. It depends on the time of year. In the winter times, I don't use nearly as much, so I'll buy it in smaller quantities. It can get real clumped up and hard sometimes in the big balls, so I try to buy what I think I'm gonna use, right? Thankfully, my dog didn't start barking his head off from this. Yeah. Sometimes I'll get when I'm editing my videos, I'll have the backup alarms from the feed trucks. When that goes off, then the dog will bark thinking it's the FedEx truck or the UPS truck coming. So Meadow will go off. It's like, Meadow, I'm working on a video. Calm down. Can you make a video showing us behind the scenes kind of video, like setting up the chute or a tour of the chute and how to use it? Yep, definitely. You can do that. Who needs a doorbell when you have a dog? That's absolutely right. We actually have a doggy doorbell. You ever seen those where she needs to go outside, she rings the doorbell? We have one of those. But yeah, no. It's funny though, because if there's nobody home and I come home, she won't bark. But if there's somebody in the house and somebody else comes home, then she'll bark. It's almost like it's a warning for us. Not so much for her, but for us. How many cows do you trim a day, and do you do it every day? I trim probably 45 to 50 cows a day on average. And then I trim, in the summer months, I'll trim 5 days a week. In the winter months, probably 3 to 4, in that range. But it all depends, and that's just based on weather. In the winter months, when it's really cold, you can get a lot of ice on farms. Ice and cows are dangerous. Another reason, one of the common questions I get is about washing feet. Why don't I do it? That's why. Because in the winter months, ice and cows, they don't mix. Do you do any bulls? On occasion, yeah. Not too often, just because most of my farms don't have bulls on site. They use AI because bulls they can be dangerous. But yeah, I do trim quite a few. I mean, I shouldn't say quite a few. I trim a few on the farms that have the bulls. But do you bring home hoof chips for your puppy? I don't. I don't want her puking those up on my carpet. If it's other people, I don't really mind. But my cows or on my carpet, no. What else? Favorite pizza topping? Pepperoni and jalapenos if it's just me eating it, but yeah. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. That's a lot of questions. I don't know how long we've been going, hour and a half-ish. So yeah, once again, once a month, do these. So you guys have any more questions? Next month, hop on and we'll do it again. So thanks again, guys, and we will see you on the next one.